This is Gemara in Kiddushin Daf Mem Ches, and we're holding on the bottom of Mem Zayin Amid Beis. We are 3 lines before the wide lines. I apologize, this year is getting up very late, but at least B'siyata Deshmaya Matzah Yantif, it should be available for everyone who needs. We're up to Viba Yisayim. We're in the middle of discussing Hamikadesh B'milva, the Machlekes Rameir and the Chachamim. Suggests the Gemara Viba Yisayim the Kuli Amla Sud Rebbe. Really, everyone does not hold of Rebbe that handing over the halva itself will not effect a Kiddushin. So what's the Machlekes? V'atacha B'der Rav Papa Kam Nifliki. Dama Rav Papa says Rav Papa, hi man, this Zavin Shtara Lechavre, one that sells a shtar to his friend. A secondary market, money is owed, so you'll take the gamble and buy the shtar with the hopes that you'll be able to collect of it. What's the halacha? Sarach l'mitzvah le'kanilacha? Who you have to write? I'm giving it over. You're going to acquire it and all the choshi Buddha. Mar is leider papa, mar less leider papa. So if you hold the Rav Papa, the Chachamim hold the Rav Papa. And therefore, since this was not written in this text of Choshi Buddha, therefore, it does not work, then she's not married. Whereas Rameir does not hold Rav Papa. Therefore, there is no necessity for such a lashain, and therefore, the value itself will allow it to effect a Kiddushin. Viba Yisema, Pshat number 3, how to understand the Machlekes, Rameir and the Chachamim. The last line of Memzayin Mebez, the Kuli Amma Islu Der Abba, V'hacha B'dishmuel Kamiflagi, another Machlekes. They're arguing about the Shita of Shmuel. Damar Shmuel teaches Shmuel as we turn over to Memchas Amid Alev, Amaycher Shtar Chayiv L'Chaveirai. If someone steals a Shtar Chayiv, the same type of case, someone owes me $100, and you know what, I tell you, I'll sell it to you, I don't need this headache. So I sell it to you. And then, V'chazaru Machlai. And then I go and I say, you know what, I'm moichel that guy that owed me the money. Quite an evil thing to do, because he owes you the money now. What's the halacha machel? Lemaisa works. V'afilu yairish meichel. And even the inheritor is allowed to be meichel. And Rashi explains why is it meichel in the top lines. Because the leiva, the borrower, is not obligated to the third party, it's obligated to me. And I was meichel it. So in as much as it's not so nice, Lemaisa, it's going to work. Rashi continues in the second line and spells out the Rameir less leid Shmuel, and therefore Hilkach Sam Chadaitev Lo Chashidim Dama Azlu Machalei. Therefore, there is a Kiddushin. For Rabbanan is leid Shmuel Hilkach Lo Sam Chadaitev, because he's always worried maybe he's going to be Meichelet, and therefore there was no Kiddushin. The Mar Islay Dishmuel, as Rashi just spelled out, that's the Rabbanan. Omar less leid Shmuel. Viba Yisayim on the third line, a fourth explanation of the Machlekes. Dekuli Amis L'Shmuel Rabbi, everyone holds of Shmuel. V'hacha be'isha kamifliki. You know what the Machlekes over here is? The Machlekes here is regarding a woman, meaning regarding the din of Shmuel, if you're moicher shtar chayiv l'chaviro, and can you be moichla, that everyone's masking you could. Question is, what about regarding a woman? Ma'arsava isha sam chadaita. That even though normally, maybe, as Rashi, let's let Rashi spell it out in the second hour line. Kalaymar, what's the special machlekes? Kalaymar always means Rashi's adding something in. What's the special machlekes by an isha? Amaya mekani karka with the meishtar zeh vade loikon amalves karka. If you try to acquire something with this shtar, of course it would not work. Why? Because there's no smichas das, you never rely upon it, because you're always worried, wait, maybe you're just going to be meichel the chof. But over here, by a woman, specifically, Rameir says, even though normally one would not be Seimach Das, but a woman is Samcha Daita, because she feels that this man is never going to be Meichelet, he's going to be Meichel or Kiddushin. No way. Back into the Gemara, Mimar Amra, she says, Lo Shavik Leila Didei Umachlet Achrini. He's not going to leave me and be Meichelet to someone else. Umar Savar Ishanami Lo Sav Chadaite. And therefore there'll be no Kiddushin. That is the Shita of the Chacham. Continues the Gemara, b'milva al peh b'mai. What's the story b'mai pligi? What is the status of the milva al peh? Until now, we're discussing giving over the shtar, the document of the halva. Clearly there was a document. Clearly it was a milva b'shtar. Says the Gemara, what if it was a milva al peh? Then what is a pligi? But Ravuna Amarav, they argue within the din of Ravuna Amarav. 10 lines down, first one line is Da'amar Ravuna Amarav. Mana libi yadcha teneo leplaini. I have a man in your hands. He says, give it to the third guy. B'mayim shleish, in the presence of 3 people. Kana, there is a kinyan. Says the Gemara, Mar savar ki kamar have. When did Ravuna Amarav? When did Rav say this din that giving something over verbally in the presence of 3 people works on immediately b'kadain? Aval milveloi Omar savar. Whereas the Chachamim hold loishna milvev loishna b'kadain. So says the Gemara, the same machlokes Chachamim and Rameir will be the same machlokes by a milva alpeh. So suggests the Gemara, Nema kitanoi. Let's say that this din of Rav is indeed a machlokes tanoi, as follows: Hiskad shili b'shtar, if someone tries to get married with a shtar, Rameir imin mikudeshes, Elazar mikudeshes. V'chachamim imrim. Well, it depends. Shaman es aniyar, evaluate the paper. Yesh v'shava pruta, if the paper itself has a value worth of pruta mikudeshes, laved mikudeshes. Hai shtar echidami. So what is this machlokes? There's 3-way machlokes. You be mekadesh bishtar hechidami. Ilim ishtar chayv da'acherim. If you're going to tell me that it's an actual shtar chayv that someone else owes you money, that's where we have this machlokes. Rameir says no, good. Rav says yes, good. Chum say evaluate. Kasha de Rameir, we come out of Steer and Rameir. Elim ishtar chayv di daron shtar chayv. And what's the machlokes? Mekadesh milva kamifliki. So what do we see? We find a precedent in previous Tanoim as to this machlokes of mekadesh milva, whether it's going to be mikudeshes, is indeed a machlokes Rameir and Rav Elazar. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, no way. I'll tell you, it's not really a precedent for the classical machlokes whether you can mekadesh b'shtar. I'll explain that you know what the case over here is. You mekadesh b'shtar that has no eidim. V'rameir l'taimei tamar. Oh, this brings us all the way back to getting Daf Beis. Eidei chasima karti. I should say Daf Beis. I should say the entirety of Gittin Gimel to start. Rameir holds it's the signatures that create the document. And therefore, if there are no signatures, it's not going to have the status of a document. Therefore, Rameir is going to hold there's no Kiddushin. And therefore works without the signatures. That's Rameir, that's Rav Elazar. So why do the Rabbanan say evaluate the paper? They're misabik. Ikar Rameir, Ikar Rav Elazar. So what do we do in the case of doubt? Evaluate the paper. That's the first way of explaining that this machlokes Rameir and Rav Elazar is not a precedent for our machlokes as to whether one could be mekadesh be milva. We continue in the Gemara. Says the Gemara Viba Yisema, another teretz. Kigai shekasu shalei lishma. The document was written shalei lishma. The guy was written shalei lishma. Over the Reish Lakish, come ifligi. And we're discussing within the din of Reish Lakish, the Bai Reish Lakish asked, Shtar Erusin, if we have a document of engagement, Erusin, Shekasul Shalol Shema Ma'u, what's the story? Havayali, it's here come Makshinan. Do we equate marriage to divorce? Ma'yiti bin Lishma, Havaya. Be Anami bin Lishma also as well needs Lishma. Doma, no. Havayis la Dadi, Makshinan, we equate getting married. Ma Havaya de Kasav bin Lishma. Just like getting married with money, you don't need the Shema. After Reish Lakish asked this kasha, Basar Debaya, Hadar Pashta. After Reish Lakish asked the kasha, he himself answered and he said, V'yatza v'haisa, Makish Havayali Yatzia. So says the Gemara, Rameir is going to hold over Reish Lakish, Mar slaves Reish Lakish. Umar and the Chachamim. and Rav Elazar, less lay the Reish Lakish. So second way of explaining the machlekes, and it does not come out that it's a machlekes as to whether Mekadesh b'milveh works or not. I apologize, we have a little bit of a lag in the video. Let's continue. Viva Yisema, a third way of understanding this machlekes are Meir and Rav Elazar. Viva Yisema, Dekuli Alma Islay Derish Lakish, everyone to Derish Lakish. V'hacha b'mayaskina, and you know what the machlekes over here is? Shekasel l'shema v'shalei mitata, and this really is a good chazar of all the concepts that we had in Gittin. And this is Uplukta de Rava v'Ravina v'Rapapa v'Rav Shavia kamifliki. Ditmar, cause we learned Kasel l'shema v'shalei l'daitai. What's the status of a get written lishma without das? Rava v'Ravina amri mekudeshes, Rava v'Rav Shavia amri mekudeshes. Says the Gemara, Neimya, Kani Tanai, Titanya, Asuli Shirayim, and Izam Tabais, Ve'akadash Anilach, make for me jewelry and I'll marry you with that jewelry. What's the halacha of the last narrow line? Kivan Sha'asan, once they are made, Mikudeshes, Divi Rabbi Meir. Chachamim I remain on Mikudeshes, Ad, She'agia Mamain Le Yada, till the money reaches her hands. Hi, Mamain, Hechi Dami, says the Gemara. Even that it's item doesn't have to reach the hands. By Mekachos, what are they getting married with? And here it is, bringing us back to Savri, the Kuli Alma Yeshena, Yeshel Eschiros B'Chilav Atzaif, that when you hire someone, you have to pay for the entirety of the time, Have Milveh, and therefore it comes out that you owe them money. My love, Kamivli, and Marso Kadesh Milvah Mikudeshes. Omar Savar, Amakadesh Milvah, Einoi Mikudeshes. So seemingly it's going to be the same machlekes. Says the Gemara, Loi, the Kuli Alma Kadesh Milvah. Really, I'll tell you, everyone knows Kadesh Milvah, Einoi Mikudeshes. That concept that we quoted, which I'm sure for many is a bit foggy what exactly this means, we'll explain in a moment. That is the machlekes. Mar Savar. As we turn over to Memchesem and Beis, Rameir holds Einoi L'Schiros Elo Lipsaif. They only come obligated to pay at the end of a job. Omar Savar of Lazos Yeshel L'Schir B'Tchilav Atzaif. You're obligated the entire time, and therefore it is more daimeh to a halva. But based on such an explanation, it comes out that the machlekes Rameir and Rav Elazar is not simply a machlekes whether Mekadesh or Milvah, but rather an entirely different subject. Viva Yisema. Another way of learning, I think we're up to number 4 or 5 in machlekes. Another way of learning the machlekes Rameir and Rav Elazar. Dekuli Alma Yeshel Eschiros B'Tchilav Atzaif. Oh, Mekadesh Milvah Eino Mikudeshes. When an uman creates something, he makes a new entity, does he effect an acquisition on the item? He was given a raw bar of silver and he took that and he fashioned a goblet, he fashioned something out of it. Does the act of betterment create that there's a kinyan in the hands of the uman? Mar Savar. So says the Gemara, we can explain the Mar Savar, excuse me. Yes, Rameir holds Uman Koine B'Shvachli. Rameir is going to be of the opinion that you do have an acquisition, and therefore, when he created this item, he made a kinyan on the item. And with that kinyan, that's what he's marrying her with, and therefore there's a marriage. Ramar Savar, the Chachamim hold no. Einu man kaini b'shachli. Iba Yisayim another teretz. I'll explain as follows: Kuli Alma Einu man kaini b'shachli. And Yesh l'Schiv B'Tchilav Atzaif. Umikadish Milvah Einoi Mikudeshes. Which were the previous 3 answers. V'hacha. So what's the machlokes with my eskinon? That he added on a little bit to the raw materials. The Marsav Milvah Upruta Taita Pruta. So when he fashions this item, what happens is 99% of the item is not his, but he added on one little dot on top. So you have a milva and a pruta, that dot being the pruta. Does that affect a marriage? One says yes, Marsavar Taita milva, therefore there's no marriage. O Plukta, the honey Tanai, and says the Gemara. And it comes out that what's the machlekes in Rameir and the Chachamim as follows: Ditanya b'scharsha sisi imach, with the wages that I have worked for you, I've done for you in a mikudeshes. B'scharsha esa imach, without which I will work for you, mikudeshes does work. Rav Nasan b'scharsha esa imach, work I'm going to do in the future in a mikudeshes. Ve'kol shegem b'scharsha sisi imach. Rav Yudah Nasi Aimer b'emes amru, really bein b'scharsha sisi bein b'scharsha esa. Whether it's work I did or whether it's work that I will do, Eino mikudeshes. But if you add something on, then mikudeshes. So says the Gemara, bein the Tanakama Rav Nasan ikabeinayu schirus, when you become obligated to pay the item at the beginning or at the end. Bein Rabbi Nasan Rabbi Yehuda Nasi ikabeinayu Melva Pruta, and there that's the machlekes Marsavar Melva Pruta Daita Melva Marsavar Daita Apruta. What is the das when such an item is given over? Is the das only on the larger entity, the milva, or is it on the item which is getting 100%, which is the pruta? From here we move on into the Mishnah on Chesam and Beis. Says the Gemara, Hiskachili b'koiseh shel yayin. Someone says, marry me with this cup of wine, and guess what? It was a cup of honey. Shel davash, shel yayin. But dinar shel zav, marry me with this silver dinar. Dinar shel kesef, excuse me. Dinar shel zav, dinar shel kesef. I'm not sheni asher. Kiddushin, I am wealthy. V'nim sa'ani, ani v'nim sa'asher. V'nim kiddushin ma'aymer. Im hatal l'shevach. If it was a trick for the betterment, if you said silver and it was gold, if you said ani and it was asher, then it is mikudeshes. Tanu Rabbanan iskachi li b'koizeh. Tani chad, the woman says, "Bai uba mashe v'seichai." Tani idach bai v'loi mashe v'seichai. Tani idach mashe v'seichai v'loi bai. So we have three brises. What does it mean when someone says, "Be married to you with this cup"? Does he intend to give her the cup, the contents? Excuse me. Does he intend to give her the cup and the contents, just the contents, or just the cup? Says the Gemara, v'loi kasha, depends what's in the cup. Ha b'maya, then he's giving both. Ha b'chamra, then he's just giving the wine. Ha b'tziara, if it's brine, then he's just giving the cup. Then he's just giving the cup. No, incorrect. Rashi says, if it's sihara, it's a dip, so then a brine, then he's giving her both, because you need the item to hold it. If it's chamra, if it's wine, then it's something chashiv, you're just giving the wine. And if it's water, then you're just giving the cup. We conclude with the next piece of Gemara. Metal Shevach, says the Gemara, if you trick for the betterment, says Rav Shimon, Harezim Mikdashes. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Lastly, Rav Shimon argues of the following that says, what does Rav Shimon mean that what does Rav Shimon mean that you could be tricked for the better? Lemaisa, we see in a brisa that if it's a mistake, if you said the wrong thing, they both could retract. But what do we see? Different items. Everyone likes their own thing. So how could Hachanami, so too over here, someone silver, not gold. And so how could Rav Shimon say, if it's for the better, it's good? What does it mean better? Better is subjective. It's true maybe in value. Gold is more valuable than silver. But maybe this one particularly only wanted silver. Amar Rav Simi Barashi Ashkachte LaAbaya Diosif. I found Abaya who was sitting, he was explaining to his son the following. Lend me a silver dinar marry, playing this a certain woman from me. And the shliach went, took a golden coin. To Marisavar Kapeda, or Marisavar Mar Makamulai. The machlekes is the Mishaleach, is the potential husband. Is he makbid, or does he mean he just meant that he should give her something? He doesn't care if he gives her gold or silver. Says the Mariachi, Iskachi Li, why did the Mishnah say he married to me? Iskachi Lai mi bayale, because the shliach talking. Hatal l'shevach, if you switch for the betterment, tahoy l'shevach mi bayale. She'll be the third party. Nimsa meikara, What does it mean, nimsa, they found? Mikar nami de zavava. It's not that she was tricked, it was that the shliach took the wrong thing. So the wording of the Mishnah clearly implies, in all scenarios, that it's the woman that was tricked. It was the woman that didn't know. Ela marava, 4 lines to the bottom, and with this we conclude, Aniva Arisha v'chabura. I, in the line in the group, Targimna, we explained the money of Chibar Rava, and that was of Chibar Rava, Achmais Kinan. Konsha Amra hi lishlucha. She told her shliach say v'kabali Kiddushin, go except for me Kiddushin, miplening from a man. Shamar Ali Iskachi li b'dinar shel kasef, who said he's going to marry me with a silver dinar. V'halach, and the shliach went v'nasal dinar shel zav. So Mar Savar Kveida, that she is makbid. Mar Savar, Mar Makam Hilai. She is just giving an idea. My nimsa tkotzayer bibli asa. What does it mean? It was found. It means it was wrapped up. Therefore, the shliach himself didn't know until it got back to the woman. So it comes out the way to read the Mishnah is that there's 2 shluchim in the story. We'll pick it up from Abai in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.